You've been scrubbing that tub stain for 6 months, and it's still there. And that's not an accident. Think about that for a second. You've tried the spray foam that costs $9 a bottle. You've used the ultra strength gel that promises to cut through anything. You've gone at it with one of those bristle wands, a pumice stone, maybe even a mixture of dish soap and baking, soda you found on a forum at 11 at night. And every single time, the stain fades a little, you call it good enough, and 3 weeks later it's back, sometimes darker. That cycle? That is a business model, a very profitable one. There's a powder you can buy right now at any hardware store, sometimes at the grocery store, for under $1 a use. One application. No scrubbing, and I mean that literally, you are not scrubbing, and the stain is gone. Not faded, not lighter. Gone. On porcelain, on enamel, on fiberglass, on cast iron. The kind of tub restoration that a professional would charge you $200 to come do with equipment you've never heard of. The powder costs less than your morning coffee. And the reason you've never heard of it isn't because it doesn't work. It's because it works too well, too permanently, and too cheaply to fit inside the business model of the companies that sell you cleaning products every single month. Here's the part that should make you genuinely irritated. Henkel, Reckitt, Procter & Gamble, combined, these three companies control about 60% of the household cleaner market, and every single one of their products has something quietly engineered into it. Not a chemical you'd find alarming, nothing sinister in that sense, just a calculated ceiling on effectiveness. The products are designed to reduce staining, not eliminate it, to make things look cleaner, not to reverse the chemistry that caused the stain in the first place. Why? Because a product that permanently solves your problem is a product you buy once. And these are companies that report to shareholders every quarter. The math is almost insultingly simple. If 10 million American households buy one bottle of bathroom cleaner per month at $8 a bottle, that's close to $1 billion a year just in bathroom cleaning products. Cut the repurchase rate in half with a permanent solution, and you've just destroyed $500 million in annual revenue. So you don't make the permanent solution, you make something that performs well enough that people keep buying it, keep trusting the brand, and never quite solve the underlying problem. This isn't a theory. This is how the economics of the cleaning industry have operated. Since the early 1960s, when the shift from mineral-based cleaning compounds to synthetic surfactant formulas happened almost overnight. Not because the new products worked better, but because they were cheaper to manufacture and easier to patent. Before that shift, something completely different was in your grandparents' cabinet. In the 1940s and early 1950s, before the aerosol spray era, housekeeping manuals from Cornell University's extension program listed a single compound powder as the gold standard for enamel and porcelain restoration. These weren't fringe publications. Cornell's home economics department was producing some of the most widely distributed household guidance in the country. At the time, their bulletins were mailed to rural households across 12 states as part of agricultural extension outreach. Millions of copies. And in those manuals, the compound they referenced had been in use for well over a century before that. It was documented in English household management guides from the 1840s. Victorian-era hotels, the kind with cast-iron clawfoot tubs that needed to stay pristine for paying guests, used it as a standard maintenance powder. It required no special equipment, no training, no protective gear beyond basic common sense, and it left porcelain surfaces cleaner and smoother than the day they were installed. That compound had another role that most people don't think about. During World War II, oxalic acid, which is exactly what we're talking about, was on the list of materials with industrial applications that the War Production Board tracked. It was used in metal treatment, in textile production, in leather processing. It had been a workhorse of industrial chemistry for decades. People who worked with their hands knew it. Hardware store owners stocked it. It was just a thing that existed in the world that people used. Then the post-war consumer product boom happened. Aerosol sprays, brightly colored bottles, national television advertising, and the quiet, cheap, effective powders that had been solving household problems for 100 years got replaced. Not because they failed, but because they couldn't be packaged into a lifestyle brand with a jingle. Here's the thing that took me a few weeks of reading to fully understand. A tub stain isn't sitting on top of your enamel. It's chemically bonded to it, and that distinction is the reason your scrub brush is completely useless against it. When hard water sits in a tub, and most municipal water is hard, meaning it carries dissolved calcium and magnesium minerals, those minerals don't just settle on the surface. They undergo a mild crystallization process. They bind to the enamel coating at a microscopic level. The pink and orange staining you see in a tub that's had slow drip from a faucet, that's not just mineral buildup. The iron in your water has oxidized, and those iron compounds have embedded themselves into the porous surface of the enamel. When you scrub at that with a brush and a surfactant-based cleaner, here's what you're actually doing. You're removing loose material from the top layer, and you might be disturbing the surface of the stain slightly, but you're not changing the chemistry. You're not breaking the bond between the mineral compound and the enamel, so the stain comes back because the bond was never broken. You just temporarily buried it under a thin layer of soapy residue that rinsed away. Now think about what you'd actually need to dissolve that bond. You need an acid, not a strong, dangerous acid. You need a specific type of organic acid with a very particular molecular behavior, one that reacts selectively with calcium oxalate, iron compounds, rust staining, and mineral scale, pulling those compounds off the surface at the molecular level without damaging the underlying enamel, porcelain, or fiberglass. Most acids you'd think of, vinegar, citric acid, muriatic acid, either aren't reactive enough to break that bond efficiently, or they're reactive in ways that can damage surfaces if you're not careful. Vinegar barely makes a dent on true hard water staining that's had months to bond. Citric acid works on light deposits but struggles with iron-based discoloration. Muriatic acid works, but you're not using that in your bathroom. The compound that gets it right, the one that is reactive enough to dissolve mineral scale and iron staining but gentle enough to use safely on enamel, is oxalic acid. And the reason it works so specifically is that oxalic acid forms a soluble complex with calcium and iron. It essentially grabs the mineral compound that's bonded to your enamel and pulls it into solution. The stain doesn't just loosen, it chemically detaches, and then you wipe it away. No scrubbing required, because there's nothing left to scrub. The chemistry already did the work. So what is this powder? The one they stopped putting in cleaning products around 1963. It's called Barkeeper's Friend. And before you say you've heard of it, yes, it's still sold. That's exactly what makes this story interesting. It never fully disappeared because it works so reliably that even in an era of marketing-driven products, hardware stores kept stocking it and contractors kept buying it. But it went from being a household staple to being a specialty item that most people walk past without knowing what it does. The active ingredient is oxalic acid. The product itself has been around since 1882. A chemist in Indianapolis noticed that his kitchen pots came cleaner after he scrubbed them with rhubarb, because rhubarb contains oxalic acid naturally. He refined the compound into a powder formula, and it became a bar and restaurant staple for cleaning stainless steel, copper, porcelain, and tile. That's where the name came from. Bartenders used it. It kept bar surfaces looking new. At its peak, before the synthetic cleaning product era, it was in millions of American homes. Then the aerosol era happened, the marketing shifted, and it got repositioned as a niche product for serious cleaning jobs rather than a daily household tool. You can find it at most hardware stores, at Walmart, at Target, sometimes at the grocery store in the cleaning aisle. A standard canister costs between $1 and $2, depending on where you shop, and a single canister will last you months of use because you only need a small amount per application. Here's exactly how to use it on a tub stain. The process takes about 15 minutes of actual time, most of which you're just waiting. Make sure your tub surface is wet. Just run a little water over the stained area. You don't want to apply this to a completely dry surface. Sprinkle the powder directly onto the stain. You don't need a lot. A light, even coating is enough. You're not piling it on. Just enough to cover the discolored area. Take a damp cloth or a non-scratch sponge and gently spread it. This isn't scrubbing. You're just distributing the powder into contact with the stain. Light pressure. You'll notice almost immediately that the surface starts to look different. There's a slight fizzing if the staining is mineral heavy. That's the oxalic acid beginning to react with the calcium compounds. Let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes. This is where most people go wrong with any cleaning product. They don't let the chemistry work. They apply and immediately start scrubbing. With Barkeeper's Friend specifically, the oxalic acid needs time to penetrate the stained layer and break those bonds. If you sit and wait, you're doing the hardest part of the job. After 10 minutes, take the damp cloth again and wipe. Use light circular pressure. Not because you need force, but because circular motion ensures full contact. You'll see the staining lifting off. If there are areas with particularly heavy mineral buildup, you might give those an extra 30 seconds of attention. Rinse the surface thoroughly with water. For severe staining, we're talking about tubs that haven't been properly treated in years, stains that have been building up and restaining repeatedly. You may want to do 2 applications back to back. Same process. Let it sit. Wipe, rinse. The second round catches what the first loosened but didn't fully remove. One note on surface types. Barkeepers. Friend is safe for porcelain enamel, ceramic tile, fiberglass, stainless steel, and copper. It is not recommended for natural stone surfaces like marble or granite. The acidity can etch polished stone. On standard tubs, you're completely fine. Standard precautions apply. Gloves are a good idea because oxalic acid is an irritant on prolonged skin contact, and make sure the bathroom has ventilation, which it should during any cleaning. If you have sensitivities, a basic dust mask while you're applying the powder is more than sufficient. The cost breakdown on this versus what people typically spend is almost funny. A $2 canister of Barkeeper's Friend handles multiple full bathroom cleaning sessions. The spray foam cleaners most people buy, $8 to $12 per bottle, used up in 2 or 3 sessions, with results that last maybe 3 weeks. Over the course of a year, the average household spends somewhere between $40 and $80 on bathroom cleaning products that never fully solve the problem. The powder that actually solves it costs $2 and lasts months. The first time I tried this, I genuinely didn't believe what I was looking at. The stain I'd been chasing in my own bathroom, a long rust orange streak under the faucet that had been there since I moved in and that I'd basically accepted as a permanent feature, was gone after one application. Not lighter, not better. Gone. The enamel underneath looked new. I actually ran my hand over it because I was convinced I was looking at a wet surface and the stain was still there underneath. It wasn't. The surface was smooth, clean, the same white as the rest of the tub. I went back and retreated the rest of the tub just to see. Same result. The hard water ring around the drain that I'd always half ignored because no amount of scrubbing ever fully removed it, dissolved. The faint pink discoloration near the wall where water had been slowly collecting, gone. The whole process took 20 minutes, including waiting time. That's the moment this went. From interesting information to something I felt like I needed to actually tell people about. Because this is a problem that bothers almost everyone. Almost every bathroom has some version of this staining. And almost everyone has spent money and time on products that never actually fixed it, simply because the right solution never got marketed with a big enough advertising budget to reach them. You just learned something that most people scrub right past their entire lives. And that sounds dramatic until you add up the hours. The hours spent on knees in front of a tub with a bristle wand. The money spent on spray bottles that smell strongly and perform weakly. The quiet resignation of deciding that certain stains are just permanent. A character flaw of the bathroom, not a solvable problem. All of that because the solution was a $2 canister that's been on hardware store shelves since 1882, and nobody thought to specifically tell you it works this way. The cleaning industry built its recurring revenue on the assumption that you'd keep buying products that require repeat application. They built it on spray formulas and single-use pods and subscription cleaning kits. What they didn't build it on was a powder that costs next to nothing and chemically removes the problem rather than temporarily masking it. The information exists. The product exists. It's just been sitting in the specialty cleaning section while the big marketing budgets all went to the products that need you to come back next month. Pick up a canister, test it on one stained corner of your tub before you commit to a full treatment if you're skeptical. That's completely reasonable. Give it 10 minutes, and then look at what 10 minutes of actual chemistry does compared to everything else you've tried. If this kind of practical knowledge matters to you, the stuff that's technically available but never quite reaches you, there's a lot more of it out there. Subscribe, and you'll catch the next one when it comes out. And if you know someone who's been fighting a losing battle with bathroom stains and spending real money on products that aren't working, share this with them. That's information they genuinely need,